There is a silent moment in the life of the soul that changes everything. It does not come with fanfare nor with promises of greatness. It does not come like a lightning bolt that splits the sky in two. It comes when one, exhausted from searching, surrenders, and it is not a surrender of defeat. It is a sacred surrender, a letting go of chasing the unattainable, a deep sigh that declares, without words, that it is no longer necessary to search, because something inside has understood that the essential was never outside. For years, I observed this pattern in my patients. They came looking for something. They sought love. They sought answers. They sought meaning. They sought healing. They sought God. And in that eagerness, in that endless search, they got more and more lost. They ran after mirages, confused signs, clung to empty promises, not because they were weak, but because the human soul has been taught to believe that the truth is somewhere else, in the future, in the other, in the distant. But the most fascinating thing is that those who found what they were looking for did not do so while they were searching. They found it when they stopped demanding, when they let down their guard. It was as if the universe, or the unconscious, could only deliver its treasures to someone who was no longer begging for them, as if fulfillment only revealed itself to one who no longer pursued it as a desperate need. The paradox is deep, and Jung lived it in his own flesh. The more we try to control life, the less it belongs to us. The more we try to force answers, the more confusion we generate. It is when we open ourselves to mystery, when we accept not knowing, when we finally breathe with the soul, that something begins to move, not from outside, from within. I found this principle repeatedly in my patients' dreams. The dreamer ran through endless streets, chased trains that had already departed, shouted names that the wind carried away, but always, in the moment, they sat down. When they stopped running, when they accepted that they could go no further, the symbol appeared. A door opened. A figure emerged from the background. A guide offered their hand. The message was clear. Active searching closes doors. Full presence opens them. In-depth psychology, this has an explanation. The human consciousness, when dominated by the ego, lives in a state of lack. It feels something is missing, and that sense of lack drives the search. But the problem is not the search itself. It is the identification with the role of the seeker. When we believe we are incomplete, we begin to live as spiritual beggars. We crawl through courses, relationships, religions, and goals, hoping that something outside gives us what we feel we do not have. The self, which is the core of the soul, in analytical psychology, does not respond to that dynamic. The self does not reveal itself under pressure. It does not obey the compulsive desire of the ego. It manifests when the individual is ready. And the preparation does not occur by accumulating knowledge or rituals. It happens by letting go, unlearning, emptiness after emptiness, layer after layer, until we are face to face with our most naked essence. And it is there, in that place, where there are no masks or demands, where the sacred happens. This is the deep meaning of what so many traditions have called grace. Grace is not bought, not forced, not torn from the sky. It is received, and it can only be received when the soul is open, not out of need, but out of loving availability. When one no longer seeks results, only presence. When one no longer demands certainties, only truth. When one stops negotiating with the mystery and simply inhabits it. I remember the case of a woman who came to therapy for more than 3 years. Her greatest pain was the absence of love. She had had failed relationships, had been betrayed, had loved more than she was loved, and each session was a new attempt to understand why. She blamed herself. She blamed her parents, her ex-partners, destiny, life, and she kept searching. She did affirmations, meditations, rituals, strategies to manifest the perfect love, but nothing came, until one day, exhausted, she came without questions. She sat down and said, "I'm tired. I no longer want to understand. I no longer want to change. I want to live. I want to have a coffee without thinking about vibrations. I want to look at the sky without asking for signs. I want to walk without a purpose." And in that instant, her face changed. She had let go. She had stopped searching. And that was the beginning of her transformation. Because love does not come to those who demand it. It comes to those who become love. That does not mean settling. It does not mean resigning oneself to an empty life. It means choosing another way of inhabiting existence, one in which attention is on the present, not on the lack, in which the heart is open, not waiting, in which one becomes a garden, not a hunter, because the soul blooms when it is not forced, but when it is allowed to be. Jung spoke of the individuation process as a spiral path. It is not a straight line toward enlightenment. It is a dance between light and shadow. And many times, the shadow disguises itself as spiritual search, as anxiety disguised as purpose, as fear wrapped in goals. That is why true inner work does not always consist in advancing. Sometimes it consists in stopping, listening, feeling, allowing. When you stop searching, everything arrives, not because everything you wanted is magically granted to you, but because you discover that what you longed for was already within you. Love, peace, meaning, connection, everything is there in the center of the soul. But the more you search for it outside, the more it hides inside. It is a mysterious game, a sacred alchemy, as if life were waiting for you to let go of your expectations to finally give you its treasure. Modern culture has created an addiction to searching. All the time we are chasing something: better relationships, more money, more purpose, more spirituality. But that constant pursuit takes us away from the miracle of the now. Jung said that the soul expresses itself in symbols, not in objectives, and those symbols only appear when consciousness is still receptive. In a state of deep listening, a woman who desperately seeks a child often does not conceive until she releases the anxiety. A man who desperately seeks professional success often finds it when he begins to do what he loves without expecting rewards. A young person who seeks their purpose finds it when they stop obsessing over finding it and begin to live with integrity and presence. There is nothing more powerful than a soul at peace, not a fake peace, not decorative peace, real peace, the kind that arises when one has stopped running, when one accepts that they are not in control, that life knows, that the soul knows, that you do not need to push the river because the river is already carrying you. Jung said that the symbol of the self often appears in dreams as a mandala, a flower, a perfect circle, and it always does so when the dreamer has passed through chaos, fragmentation, searching. It is in the center of the labyrinth where the heart is found, not at the exit, not at the goal, at the center. And that center is only revealed to those who dare to stop searching and begin to inhabit. Perhaps today you find yourself in the midst of a search. Perhaps you are desperate to find answers. Perhaps your soul is tired of waiting. I invite you not to give up, but to let go, not to stop desiring, but to stop chasing, to allow life to find you, to allow grace to reach you, to open your heart not as a trap to attract, but as an act of sincerity with the universe. When you stop searching, everything arrives, because finally you are ready to receive, because your energy is no longer projected outward, but rooted inward, and from that center, from that sacred space of stillness and truth, everything begins to take shape, without haste, without pressure, like the dawn, like the flower that opens, like the soul returning home,